it's Doris with All the Books, and Shawn and I are here with another installment of the Faber stories. This is A Good Man is Hard to Find by Flannery O'Connor. Now, I didn't think that I would have to do much introduction with Flannery O'Connor because everybody knows who Flannery O'Connor is, but apparently I don't. I've never read her before at all. And I did not realize until page 1 that she was a Southern writer. So I'm delighted. I'm going to read all of her works now. I think. Hopefully this will keep me captured the way it has thus far. You just immediately sink into her writing. It's very just immersive as far as the setting and the characters go. So this is a family, the nuclear family, with a grandmother tagging along, a la National Lampoon's Vacation. But this one has a little twist in that there is a prisoner that's escaped, the misfit. So Grandma thinks that it's a dangerous situation to head to Florida from Atlanta, Georgia, and wants to go to Tennessee instead, but she is overruled by the rest of the family. So far we're just in the car, and we've stopped at a little roadside gas station diner. I'm extremely familiar with those. And yeah, I'm a Southerner, in case that wasn't quite obvious. So just the two quick things that I want to mention, because like I said, not much has happened. We're just painting this picture. But the grandmother is just a character. She is a card. And the two little kids, it's like the parents, and well, there's a baby too, but it's like the parents and the baby are just kind of there because they have to be, but the story revolves around the grandmother and the two kids. And the little girl, was her name June Star, I think? I love their little double Southern names. The boy is John Wesley and the girl is June Star, yes. She is just sassy, and Grandma will just say anything, and I could totally see June Star being Grandma when she gets to be that age. And the other thing is, it doesn't, no holds barred, it jumps right into the Southern casual everyday racism of the era. This is the 1950s. And so I'm really curious about that. As I said, this is my very first ever Flannery O'Connor. So I want to know if she is just jumping into the racism to paint that picture, or if she will have a commentary on it. So fingers crossed for the commentary. But yeah, Shawn, what do you think so far? So far, so good for me.
Hey, Doris. Well, this is starting out really interesting, isn't it? I have read the first 12 pages now, and I read this story 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I had, or still have in a box in Canada, the collected works of Flannery O'Connor. Don't think I read many of them. I did read this one, I'm pretty sure, and I just remember I didn't like it that much. I don't know why, other than Flannery O'Connor, like many Southern writers, is pretty gothic. I'm not a big fan of the gothic, but I'm spellbound by the first 12 pages here. Like you, I love the characters that are foregrounded, the two grandkids and the grandma. The grandma is a hoot. She's so prim and old-fashioned and set in her ways, but also there's a bit of whimsy underneath. The parents are kind of indistinct, and that maybe fits for where we are at in the story. And we're at this side of the road thing with a monkey and the owner's under the truck. I thought at first he was dead or something. It was weird. There's just moments that seem like they're going to turn suddenly violent, and I think because of the escaped killer, I'm bracing myself. So every new paragraph that starts a little weird, I think, oh, this is the beginning of something really gruesome. But so far, it's been a very kind of normal road trip story. Curious to see where it goes. Apparently, the ending is controversial. I don't know if it's for some racial reason. I agree with you. I mean, it's really dated with some horrible language that was not considered horrible in the 1950s, but it's almost hard to read now. Lots of use of the N-word. And I hope, but I'm not really holding out. I don't know how enlightened Flannery O'Connor was. For a woman living in the middle of the 20th century in Georgia, I'm sure she was relatively enlightened compared to her compatriots, but I'm not expecting anything particularly woke in this story about race, but who knows? Let's finish it up. So far, it's great.
Hey Shawn, I woke up this morning with a Voxer message from you asking about a passage in this book. So they turned onto the dirt road and the car raced roughly along in a swirl of pink dust. The pink dust, let me explain. So this book is set in Georgia, right? I am very familiar with Georgia. I'm not from Georgia, but I am from the tri-state, so North Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. And we are very, country girls anyway, we're very familiar with Georgia peaches, Georgia thumpers, and Georgia red clay. So yes, Georgia, the dirt composition is a red clay. I sent you an image, and that would, red would create the red dust. So maybe not as romantic as you were envisioning, but very atmospheric as far as Georgia is concerned. And for those of you out there who don't know Georgia thumpers, Google that one, because not everything is bigger and better in Texas. Anyway, yeah, the book. So I have to confess that, I love the first half, and I went to read the second half, and it was just a complete wreck. You see what I did there? Anyway, yeah, I didn't get along with it. It just felt like a completely different story. I was like, what the heck? I felt like none of the racist issues that we talked about in the first half were addressed. I was really bummed because I was expecting great things from this Southern Gothic writer. So I got on Voxer and I was venting my frustrations with my friends. What did I miss here? Thanks, Kendra and Robert, for cluing me in. And then I went on Google and I did a little researching of Flannery. Sorry, I'm picking off the little seed pods off my legs. I was photographing wildflowers at my state park. This is a state park, can you believe it? Anyway, what was I saying? Google. So I Googled Flannery O'Connor, and I learned a little more of her background and what she was trying to say in her work. And I picked up A Good Man Is Hard to Find once more, reread it, and it all made sense. So it jumped from a 3-star read to a 4-star read, just like that. I think what happened was I just loved the first part with the characters, and then the kids started misbehaving and pitching fits, and we had just read A River in Egypt with another child pitching a fit, and I was like, really? Again? And then he threw the cat against the tree, and that just really did not sit well with me. So I wasn't in the right mindset. I don't think I was using the right filter when I read it. So when I reread it, knowing a little more about Flannery O'Connor and, being a little more relaxed about the story since I'd already read it the first time, it really just all clicked into place. And I get what she was saying, even with the racism. It's just that, like I said before, casual racism, and I don't mean that in any sense that it's okay at all. It's just this prevalent attitude in the South that I'm a good person and I don't have to question my intentions and behaviors because I'm living out this life that I'm conditioned to live, and it's the right thing to do, but it's not. So anyway, if you read it, I think you'll all you know, if you just, it just takes a little more research and a little more thought and a little more settling into the story. Luckily, that's the beauty of short stories, is they're short, so you can read them 2 or 3 times and get all the meaning out of it and really understand it. But yeah, so then I was actually chatting with Charlotte from Tired Mama Tries to Read, and Joe Smith. We've been reading War and Peace together online, and that book, I've had similar issues with that. It just hasn't worked for me, and now all of a sudden it does. So 600 pages in, however, so no rereads going on here in the near future. But yeah, so chatting with them today, War and Peace and A Good Man Is Hard to Find, they just talk to each other in my mind, and now this one's bumped up to a 5-star. I really like what it has to say. And yeah, why don't you explain it a little more, Shawn? I'm still pondering it, but I see that you have already given it 5 stars on Goodreads. So, and this is actually your second time reading it. You mentioned having read it years ago. So yeah, take it away, Shawn. Explain it to all of us. And yeah, this is a really interesting discussion, I must say.
Hey Doris, well I've been thinking, maybe not quite as deeply as this guy, but I've been thinking about the story since I finished it a couple days ago, and I've delayed getting back to you because I'm kind of rendered mute by how powerful this story was. And this is one of those times where I'm going to argue, not with you, but just in general, that there are certain encounters with literature where analysis would be the worst possible response. And maybe that's a cop-out, and maybe I would have more to say later, and maybe I will actually say a couple analytical comments, but this is a perfect short story. And it's just throbbing with a poetic sense of everything that's in it is so bloody important, and the violence and the mysterious stuff that I can't explain, it's all freaking perfect. And I love when that happens to me with certain works of literature. I kind of feel like celebrating that sense of pregnant muteness that I'm feeling about this story. I will say that, yes, the casual racism was can't be set aside, and the villains in the piece were not black. So all this racial othering, but it's the white men that were the bastards. There's a whole bunch of stuff about religion in here, and you know, I'm not a religious person, but it just was perfect. I don't want to analyze it. I found online people doing Catholic Thomist analyses of the story and the ending. That's fine. People can do what they want. But I don't have any questions about this. I listened to Flannery O'Connor read it. It's on YouTube. I sent you the link. Let's put the link in the show notes so people can experience. The audio quality is not wonderful, but it's Flannery O'Connor reading the story herself. So that's a treat. Yeah, I don't remember why I didn't like it when I was in my 20s, but probably the violence was too much for me. And now I think it was just perfection. So that's what I have to say, and we should have asked him. He'd probably have more to say. Can't wait for the next one, but boy, it's gonna be a hard act to follow. Flannery O'Connor.